I essentially want to ask a very fair question that most people ask me is like, at what level of wealth should I stop working? And I think it's a very personal question, but in your case, what is your number?
I haven't come up with my number, frankly. I don't know exactly what that is. I I think I philosophically have a little bit of an issue with coming up with a number because the number can change and does change. Like to me, the best way to think about it is if you're really evaluating this decision, if it's realistic, you should be running serious models and analysis to see if this works, right? If this makes sense and if your assumptions make sense and a bunch of other variables in there, right? Age, a bunch of creativity around your future expenses. Yeah, a bunch goes into there, but I much prefer to run the model every once in a while based around what's going on in your life and seeing if this works and then coming up with kind of a probability of success, some Monte Carlo type approach, and then deciding there rather than saying, okay, I'm going to retire when I get to XYZ number. I much prefer life circumstances dominating the route to decision rather than the number. But I suggested this topic because I was talking about it with some friends. And I think it's fun. And I think that most people, if you haven't dug into this stuff, if you've never built a retirement planning model and you don't know what that means, you're probably thinking, oh yeah, I get to XYZ millions of dollars and I can retire. I don't have to work anymore, right? That's how probably most of us think. That was a long answer to, I don't know. I don't have my number.
I think it really depends on what your lifestyle is going to be and who your social circle is. And
right, but that's a boring answer. Let's get to the real numbers, dude. Talk numbers to me.
So the real numbers here, like I actually want to just show you what wealthy looks like in terms of numbers, what we consider the very high net worth people. And this was a report by, I want to say Wealth X. I think it's called like Wealth X. It's called Very High Net Worth Handbook of 2021. And I'm just going to show one page, which is basically a tier here. And it doesn't show all the tiers, right? Because like this one that I have here, which is updated, just shows very quickly. Can you see there? How many?
So this is
Worldwide.
globally or US?
I think it's
globally.
It's globally, yeah. It's globally.
Okay. So these wealth tiers, we're looking at, this is what they call high net worth or very high net worth. I've seen ultra as a different. Maybe ultra is like 10 million plus.
So this one is from 2017, right? I haven't seen this one redone, right? Like it starts from like the 30-50, which is where kind of the one here drops off.
Got it.
And it goes up all the way to the plus 1 billion. There's a ton of people in the 5 to 10 million, 1.8 million. It's a lot. I mean, for our industry, it's a lot. If you think about it, we don't need a ton of clients to have a very successful business. And there's a lot of them here. It just becomes a little bit thinner at the top. But once you move on to, the plus 1 billion, you're talking about thousands. And this number probably is much larger now in 2021. 4 years,
$1 billion market,
massive bull market.
Sure. Okay, so if we're talking tiers, let's go back to the other one because this one is like over 30 million. I told you this before our call. Over 30 million, it's hard for me to imagine, we were laughing about this, that at $30 million of net worth or family net worth, that you'd be highly focused on increasing that, right? That you'd be like working to be like, okay, 30 million is not remotely enough and we need to get this higher for XYZ reason. I think there's reasonable arguments to be made to the counter, like, oh, that's enough for you, but I want to make enough to change the world, right? I want to make enough to end malaria or whatever it is. So this wealth tier, we're calling 5 million plus as very high net worth. What's high net worth? What's accredited $1 million of net worth outside of your primary home?
Earned income of 300 if you're married, or net worth 1 million excluding the primary residence.
Yep.
Or if you have the series 7, 65, or 82. The key thing here is that from an individual point of view, that's the number. But if you have a trust or something, then the numbers start to, increase.
Right. All right. So back to the high level thing. What tiers are we talking about here? So very high net worth, we call 5 million. High net worth, I think it's fair to say accredited is a fair judge for high net worth. So how do you think of these tiers? What do these different tiers mean to you? Like from 1 million to 5 million means what in terms of lifestyle, ability?
It depends on what age, right? I think that's the key question. At what age do you have that money, right? So like, out of college, 1 to 5, great. You're among the top people. I think I've seen another graph where it actually tells you like what is, the top percentile at different ages.
Yeah, just fill it in. Just throw it in there.
So I am 35, and wealthy means net worth to me, it's like top 5%, not top 1%. Right. So
no, you're not rich in huge things.
Yeah, I mean, you need to have 2.6 million if you want to be in the top. No, you're not rich. Excellent. Yep. Very interesting. And so if you're, but if you're 18 to 34,
still
you have $1 million. That's a lot of money.
How much is it? $1 million?
$1 million.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. I was not wealthy at age 18 to 34. Imagine you have, let's say you had a nice exit and you made 4 million and you're, 29. And there you go. So the question is at 45, what do people of 45 to 54 have? Look, it jumps to 11 million if you want to be in the top. It really shows you the case here that, you jump 5 times. How much do you jump here? 18 to 34, it's $1 million. And here you jump to 2.6. So let's say it's 2.6. And then the next one you jump to 11.9. And the next one you jump to 14. So the big jump happens from 35 to 44. Oh, so you mean between the second and third here. And the last one...
Translate this for me. How much money do I need to not work anymore?
This doesn't answer that question. This just answers where you are with respect to everybody else's. If you feel wealthy because you compare yourself against others, then I can give you a number.
There you go. Wealth cutoffs by age. I have a number in my head that I think of as somewhat reasonable to approximate what I believe to be retirement-ish for most people that I work with. Do you have a number in your head similar to that where it's like, okay, this is, as a net worth number, this is probably reasonable if you wanted to retire. And this means retire early too. So this means this is including things like, definitely a nice place to live. I'm not saying in the middle of Manhattan, but a nice place to live. Probably sending your kids to private school if you want to do that. Not necessarily paying for expensive college, but having some sort of education savings and jumpstart for your kids. Likely to be able to accomplish all these things if you're well invested, diversified in the right way. Do you have a number? Does a number stand out to you when I give you that description?
I think there was an article in the New York Times saying, trying to tell people that no, it's really hard to live in Manhattan. Going there full out, sending kids to private school, blah, 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 mortgage, co-op maintenance, nanny, all you can say, how much you need in order to live. And I think the number back, I think that the article was in 2009, right after the recession. And they said 500 will barely get you there, 500K pre-tax. I think that number has grown to probably I'd say 750 to 800 a year, but you're not saving kind of there, right? Because you're saying private school, it's 40K a year. Assume you have 2 kids, that's 80K. The mortgage itself, maybe it's, 120 a year. Co-op maintenance, the same. So you're talking about 240 there. So 240 plus 80, that's 320. You have a nanny, and you're paying that nanny 60K a year. Yeah, so you just have to multiply that by 2 because that's the tax rate, 50%. And there you go. That's kind of like where you have that, and that doesn't include like vacation, food, blah blah blah, all that other stuff, entertainment. Wealth and income right now at this stage of life are two very different things. And so at what wealth would I consider myself like stop saving and not have to do anything more personally? I think that number would be, it's like 6 million.
That's 6 million. Yeah.
6 million will barely get me there. So 20 years spending 300K. That means like I retire at 70, I die at 90. Obviously there's income generated, or like you have gains during that period of time.
Interesting. Yeah, I totally disagree. I don't think most people feel that way at all. I think you're being skewed by the New York City, Manhattan story.
Yeah, I guess
in New York and you're living it. You're paying the premium to be there. The number that I came up with for non-New Yorkers in my head is 4. At 4 million, I think a lot of people have the chance to bridge the gap between where they are now, which is mid-career for most of my clients, and raising kids, getting them out of the house, bridging to that place where Social Security income kicks in and starts to make a really big difference. That's not a hard number. Of course, circumstances vary, but that's one in my head that most people who don't have big spending plans, who don't care about living in the biggest house or having a boat or the most elite private schools and colleges, I think that gets to a place where a lot of people can make that work. But do I see a lot of people making that decision at 4 million? No, definitely not. That's a place where we can massage the numbers to make those work, or even be skeptical about the numbers and still make them work. But do I see people doing that? Absolutely not. So, all right, 4 to 6, we kind of got that established. Maybe you could retire early, mid-career, work less than you otherwise would. Any other kind of like levels stand out to you? So you said 12 to 15. Where do you think other people might be more comfortable calling?
No, I think this is coastal numbers. I would say it's California and New York, trying to maintain that kind of livelihood in these expensive neighborhoods. And it's an issue, right? Because if you live here, there's likelihood that your children live here, and as a result, that's what you have to deal with. But I agree with you. If you lived in Phoenix or I don't know, some other places in the Carolinas, for example, life would be way more, less expensive.
You're familiar with South Florida too? How about South Florida? Certain areas of Miami.
But the problem is South Florida is changing a lot.
Yeah, of course, but you don't have to spend New York money to live in South Florida, do you?
No, of course not. And taxes are lower, and just income in general will get you. Your income will get you much further. I don't know what the number is there because I don't know what things are costing. Like if you have a fully paid house already and you don't have to, and you're just maintaining it, things you could keep things lower, I guess. And your biggest expense is taxes.
It will be. It almost definitely will be.
Yeah. So it really depends also where is the money saved. So if it's saved in a 401k or an IRA, then it's compensation income. And if you're forced to take out that money at age 72, and the lifespan of an American hasn't gone up in the recent year, so it's interesting. Like the further someone who's 100, their lifespan is until 102.9. I want to say, I don't know when this is from. I think it's from 2014, but it gives you the same indication. Like if you're 72, you have another 15.5 years of life left. If you're 73, it gets reduced by 0.7. I guess if you lived all the way until you're 80, there is a strong likelihood that you'll get it to 90. Right? That's kind of the idea. Long winding decision is, it really depends on your lifestyle, I think, what the final number is. And you shouldn't truly be comparing yourself against others. You should be trying to figure out what your retirement will look like in terms of lifestyle.
I think that comparison is inevitable here. People do it. I think it's just not as useful of a data point as you think it is. It's a compelling data point. People keep track of it. It's definitely important, but
people need benchmarks, right? So that
Of
they need
course, and
benchmarks
until you're
to
at real
feel.
decision points, it's not tremendously instructive.
Where do you think the most very high net worth people live?
From 5 to 30, those people live in the U.S. clustered around employers that made them that rich. So big cluster in New York, San Francisco. You got to think like Texas, energy, money. I mean, major cities, major employers.
So worldwide, top city is New York, then Tokyo, and then Los Angeles, and then Hong Kong.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Chicago, San Francisco, Washington, Paris, Boston, Dallas.
Checks out. All the best airports. Get you anywhere in no time.
3 airports in New York. If you consider like Newark as part of New York.
Right.
Tokyo,
2
I don't
in DC.
know. Yeah.
There's 2 in Tokyo. There's 2 in Chicago. 2 in DC. Yep.